9th Annual Women Veterans Appreciation Day, where we honor the contributions of women veterans to the Commonwealth and to our nation. Please rise for the presentation of the colors by the 54th Massachusetts Regiment Honor Guard, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. We now invite Ashley Eisner, U.S. Navy veteran, to come forward and lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chaplain Colonel Lawrence Baser, Joint Forces State Chaplain, Massachusetts National Guard, will now deliver the invocation.
Please join me in prayer. Our ever-loving Creator of all, we thank you for this morning as we come together for the 9th year to formally celebrate and honor our women veterans of Massachusetts. Women have served from behind the lines to the front lines during times of peace, and have led, sustained, and supported our country during times of peace. Instill within the hearts and souls of our women veterans the wisdom of the prophet Deborah, who has led the Israelites in the book of Judges to victory, and instill within the spirit and might of Yael, who with tenacity successfully faced the enemy for the good of the people. May the deeds of our Massachusetts women veterans always inspire new generations of women to serve, defend, and protect our great land, bringing freedom, peace, and hope to all. May our United States forever be graced with your choicest blessings. May our citizens of all races, creeds, faith, and gender forge a common bond in true harmony to banish all hatred, bigotry, and sexism, and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions which are the pride and glory of our country. God bless the women veterans. God bless the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and God bless the United States of America, and let us all say, Amen.
Honorees, distinguished guests, thank you for being here to celebrate the contributions of thousands of women veterans who have served our nation from the Revolutionary War to our most recent conflicts. Today's women here represent the almost 32,000 women veterans in Massachusetts, and this celebration is for each one of them. The women veterans who have paved the way before us, and most importantly, those who have fallen in the name of freedom. In remembrance, we will now begin our ceremony with a candlelight tribute. We have 5 candles to represent each branches of the military. The colors of the candles signify each meaning. We light one for grief, one for courage, one for memories, one for world peace, and one for love. I now invite the 5 women veterans from each branch of the military to continue our lighting ceremony. Thank you. I ask that you please remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and remember our sisters in prayer. Thank you very much. I would now like to introduce the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Services. Secretary Coleman Nee joined the department in 2007 and has worked very tirelessly on behalf of veterans in the Commonwealth. He's been involved in several initiatives on behalf of women veterans and was appointed to Secretary on January 24th, 2011. He is a veteran of Operation Desert Storm, where he served in the United States Marine Corps. Please help me welcome Secretary Nee.
I want to thank you today for being here, and I want to thank you as we recognize Massachusetts women veterans and honor this year's recipient of the Deborah Sampson Award. Ms. Eileen Murillo of Revere. I want to thank all the women veterans that are here and elsewhere who've served our nation from World War II to Iraq and Afghanistan today. I especially want to single out those women veterans who served during the Persian Gulf War, as this year marks the 23rd anniversary of that conflict. From 1990 to 1991, almost 700,000 U.S. service members, along with 40 coalition countries, deployed to Saudi Arabia and elsewhere for operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. When it was over and the mission to liberate Kuwait was complete, over 1,100 Americans had been killed or wounded, including 8 from Massachusetts who gave the ultimate sacrifice, their own lives. For women veterans, the Gulf War demonstrated that their professionalism, bravery, and skill that our sisters in arms could bring to the battlefield, and which we have come to take for granted over the past 12 years. Mobilization for the Gulf War included an unprecedented proportion of women from the active forces at almost 7%, and from the Reserve and the National Guard at almost 17%. And at the time, it was the largest female deployment in U.S. history. Now, the Gulf War was fought in some of the most toxic and environmentally dangerous conditions that U.S. forces had seen since World War I. These conditions included immersion into the smoke from burning oil, exposure to depleted uranium, sarin gas, and other toxic nerve agents. We who served there remember multiple vaccinations and pills that made us ill, high combat stress, and other battlefield factors that contribute to the fact that of that 700,000 service members who deployed to the Gulf War, nearly 30% have developed symptoms associated with Gulf War illness or Gulf War syndrome. Many of these issues are facing women today, and they include such health issues as rashes, memory loss, severe fatigue, and chronic widespread pain and other ailments. Now, during the Gulf War, women veterans showed us their great capacity to sacrifice on behalf of this nation. Of the 13 U.S. service women who gave their lives, 4 of them were for enemy fire, including 3 who were attacked in an Iraqi Scud missile attack. 21 women were wounded in action, and 2 were taken prisoners of war. But while the Gulf War and Iraq and Afghanistan since then have set the stage for far more acceptance of women in the military and in our society, we have a lot of work ahead of us to ensure that women veterans receive the recognition and respect for their military service that is afforded their male peers. The challenges women veterans face extend far beyond the battlefield. We know that reestablishing family relationships can be difficult for veterans transitioning back, and women rarely take the decompression time they need to adjust and address their own needs before caring for the needs of their families. We know physical ailments, especially for OEF and OIF service women, include joint, back pain, and other muscular ailments, due in part to the wearing of equipment ergonomically designed for men. We know that military sexual trauma is higher proportionally amongst women, and that women with MST are more likely to experience other mental health conditions, which are often accompanied by physical problems. We know that women veterans, especially those with children, are at increasing risk for homelessness when they return. We know women veterans struggle with gender discrimination in the workforce, as well as a balancing work and home lives, and often cannot find jobs that pay as well as the military. These conditions are unacceptable, and that is why I am so proud of the work being done by our Women's Veterans Network and proud of veterans like Eileen Murillo. Ms. Murillo, your story and efforts are inspiring, and we cannot thank you enough for your service as both a member of America's greatest generation, as well as for your strong advocacy for your sisters in arms, regardless of their branch or conflict. Ma'am, Deborah Sampson would indeed be proud of you to receive this award today. Thank you. I also want to thank and recognize our DVS team, especially DVS Deputy Secretary Cheryl Poppy, our Women's Veterans Network Coordinator Viviana Marcotte, and the entire Women Veterans Network Steering Committee for their work to provide direct services and outreach to women veterans all over Massachusetts. Our Women's Veterans Network is strong and active and successfully staged their 5th annual Women Vet Conference this past June, where over 350 women veterans gathered, learned, supported each other, and received access to the benefits and resources that all of you have earned as a result of your service. I assure you that the women veterans of Massachusetts have powerful allies and supporters, including Governor Patrick, all of the distinguished speakers that are here today, and especially our next speaker. And it is my honor at this time to introduce and bring up to the podium our State Senate President, Therese Murray.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me back to speak with you this year, and congratulations to the Deborah Sampson honoree today. It's an honor to be with you, and it's an honor to be here and recognize and to show respect for the courageous women who have risked their lives to make ours safer. As well as their unwavering support of military women and veterans. More and more military women are being recognized for their sacrifices and bravery, both at home and abroad. In our latest effort to support military members and their families, the Senate and House passed Valor Act 2 this past month, which builds off of the original act in expanding benefits, increasing access to services, and strengthening the recognition and honor given to our servicewomen and men. So thank you again for all of your services, your protection, and especially your sacrifices. Thank you.
It is now my distinct honor to introduce our Secretary of the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, John Polanowitz. Secretary Polanowitz is a West Point graduate, former Black Hawk Company commander. His son currently attends West Point, and I am proud to call him my commanding officer. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary John Polanowitz.
Thank you, Coleman, for that introduction, and certainly thank you to the Women's Veterans Network for inviting me here and giving me a few moments to appreciate what our Massachusetts, what our Commonwealth's women veterans have done so much for not only us, but for our nation. First off, congratulations to Lieutenant Eileen Marullo, this year's Deborah Sampson honoree. Thank you for your dedication during both your military and your civilian career, and for never wavering in your goal of trying to recognize women veterans. And a special thanks to Viv, who's the coordinator for the Mass Women's Veteran Network. She is tireless about her efforts to raise awareness and support for women veterans. Women veterans here are in great company. Nationally, in 2011, there were 213,000 women in active component of the U.S. Armed Forces and 190,000 women in the Reserves and National Guard. In 2009, women made up 8% of the total veteran population, or approximately 1.5 million veterans, and in the next 20 years, that number is projected to double. Here in our Commonwealth, nearly 1,300 women make up 15% of our Commonwealth's Air and Army National Guard, and there are 31,000 women veterans living here. Massachusetts, as the Senate President talked about, is a great place to be a veteran. We lead the nation in providing services to 385,000 veterans and their families. Under the Governor's administration, we've empowered veterans and their families to participate in growth and opportunity here in the Commonwealth, advancing community-based initiatives to serve the unique needs of our veterans. Earlier this year, the Governor signed an executive order to help small businesses owned by disabled veterans expand and grow in this Commonwealth. In fact, this month was declared Hire a Vet Month, encouraging the employers to help our military members to use their vast talents to serve their communities and civilian life. Our Office of Labor and Workforce Development is working with the business community and local chambers to create meaningful partnerships to help veterans access employment and housing. And through programs like the Women's Veterans Network and Mass Vets Advisor, the Patrick administration is increasing outreach to all veterans and their families to ensure they have the knowledge and the ability to access all of the benefits that they have earned. So, as a veteran, I am incredibly excited to be here and proud to be here. And again, congratulations, Lieutenant Eileen Marullo, to an award incredibly well earned through a lifetime of commitment. And thank you to all our veterans here today for your incredible service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And I did want to echo just the recognition of the men and women of the National Guard, Massachusetts National Guard. We have seen over the past year the outstanding bravery, the courage, the dedication, and the leadership that our Guard brings to Massachusetts. They work tirelessly overseas doing dangerous work. They work tirelessly here in Boston, and we saw that as clear as day last April at the marathon. My next speaker certainly is a strong advocate for our women vets, Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas. Congresswoman Tsongas represents the 3rd Congressional District, anchored in the city of Lowell. She's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. She has been a national leader in the fight against military sexual assault. She established the Military Sexual Assault Caucus and is the author of the Defense Strong Act, which became law in 2011. She's certainly somebody that us here in Massachusetts have come to count on to advocate strongly for the rights of all veterans, in particular our women veterans. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you Congresswoman Tsongas.
Thank you, Secretary Nee, and thank you. It's great to be here with all our distinguished guests, and I very much appreciate the Women's Veterans Network inviting me to this event. And I'm so glad to be here as we honor the work of outstanding women veterans like Lieutenant Eileen Marullo, and all, because you have set the stage and set the standard, and it's so wonderful that you're being honored today. And also I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about the importance of women being involved in policies that are written as we are writing them that impact all of our service members. I am currently, as you heard, a member of the House Armed Services Committee. I sought that committee out. My predecessor, Marty Meehan, had been on it. He was Massachusetts' sole representative, but it also was a committee that had been historically dominated by women, and I felt it was important that we continued to seek and bring diversity to that committee, and so I sought it out. It coincided with the fact, as we heard, the military is now about 14% female and is expected to be about 25% female by 2025. And no more was that brought more home to me than as I have visited Afghanistan 5 times now to do 2 things. Seek out women who are serving in our behalf, hear their stories, commiserate with them as it's so hard to be away from home on Mother's Day. They sacrifice much, as do all members of the military, as they spend many months away from their family and confront grave dangers. And this young woman, I met with, we always seek out people from our district, and I met with a young woman lieutenant. This was in 2008. She was a graduate of the Air Force Academy. Her brother had helped me out on my campaign. So we sat down together to have lunch in the mess hall in Kabul. She was a fine young woman. She was an intelligence officer, but we talked about very simple things as we ate Jell-O and just sort of talked about what we were missing at home. We never really discussed the dangers that all those serving confront. 3 weeks later, she was killed by an IED. I have taken that conversation and the immediate the loss of her so soon after having met with her makes very real what we're asking of our service members each time we commit to go into combat. But it's a good thing. I think that the fact that given the irregular nature of war, women are serving in obviously always in harm's way, but I think it's a great decision that now combat-related positions will be open to women as well. I thank all the women veterans who are in the room today who have given great service to our great nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman, as well. Education Secretary Matt Malone is the governor's top advisor on education. He has held leadership positions in education positions in Boston, Brockton, and San Diego public schools. And most importantly today, Secretary Malone is a fellow Marine Corps and Operation Desert Storm veteran. He has been a dogged and strong advocate for student veterans and reminds student veterans of all ages of the virtues and importance of their military service. And it's my honor to bring him to the podium, Secretary Matthew Malone.
As a veteran, thank God for Coleman Nee. Thank God for Coleman Nee and the work he does on behalf of veterans across this Commonwealth. Not just veterans, but families. Let's give Coleman Nee a round of applause. Lieutenant Marullo, a trailblazer, a hero. We thank you for your service to our country. We also thank you for your service to our children, for being a teacher, to give back what you learned. Thank you for being here today. The most important thing we can do right now with our returning veterans, particularly our female veterans, is to engage them in public higher education. The post 9/11 GI Bill provides our veterans with opportunities way beyond what we used to have in the past, and we thank our leadership for supporting that, and not only that, the Valor Act, so thank you for what you've done, Senator. Thank you as well. I can tell you this, across this Commonwealth right now, I visit community colleges, state colleges, and universities, and I talk to veterans. And when you visit a place like Mount Wachusett, they have 400 students right now in their veterans program. When you visit North Shore Community College, they have built a bunker, a home for us as we welcome and re-engage in the work we're doing. Salem State, a leader in this work across this Commonwealth. The most important thing we can do when we come home is go back to school. Why? Because we need to increase our access and opportunity, become productive members of a middle class in the 21st century. And we do that through education. Now think about the world we can have when our veterans re-engage and they become our future teachers, our future leaders, our future business executives. That's how we change this country. I thank you for the work that you have done, particularly our female veterans. On days like this and weeks like this is Veterans Day week, this is also Marine Corps Birthday week, I think in honor about the sacrifices that we have made, both male and female, to support our country. I think of the words of Shakespeare, we few, we happy few. We band of brothers and sisters. We're all one family now, male and female, veterans who served this country. On days like this, I think of Mr. and Mrs. Harris from Swampscott, Massachusetts. I was a superintendent. I met their daughter. She wanted to be a Marine. She didn't want to be any Marine. She wanted to be a pilot. Their only child, their little girl. And when she was shot down in Iraq, and she tried to take corrective action, save her troops. You think about heroism and what it takes to be a hero. It's in here. It's in here. It's how we raise our kids. It's because of you setting that example, being the role models for all of us. And we owe much to our veterans. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General Martha Copeland.
Thank you, Secretary Nee. Of all the great events we do in this hall, this is one of my favorites every year to celebrate all of our veterans, but particularly, Lieutenant, you today. Isn't it true that as we bring women more to the forefront, to Congress, in the military, then we will also think about the needs of women, like body armor that fits. And so it's good to have women's voices everywhere, and it's particularly fitting today as we look at the history of women in the military, and as we heard Congressman Tsongas say, the future of women in the military is bright. And the opportunity for women to join the military, to get those skills, to get that training, to get that discipline. I'm reminded of Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "Women are like tea bags. You show our strength when we're in hot water." And she wasn't talking just about women veterans, but it occurs to me that women who get to serve our country know exactly what that means. So we thank you for that, and it's a nice day to celebrate. Congratulations, Lieutenant Rullo.
And it's my honor also now to bring up someone else who we work exceptionally close with, Treasurer Stephen Grossman, to teach and help our veterans, particularly our women veterans, about how best to protect their financial assets and secure a future for themselves. So it's my honor to introduce the Treasurer of the Commonwealth, Stephen Grossman.
Thank you very much. So on this day, and when we appreciate women veterans, it seems important that we talk a little bit about the things that we are doing for women veterans to improve the quality of their lives. And I'd like to introduce a colleague of mine. He's behind the pillar, but I want you to come out. Ryan Melville. Ryan Melville is a member of the Massachusetts National Guard. He is a veteran from the Afghanistan War, but more important, he administers the Welcome Home Bonus Program. This is a program that was created by the legislature. More than 25,000 women and men have received Welcome Home bonuses over the past 7 years. Over $25 million of taxpayers' money has been given to veterans, women and men, as an expression of appreciation to them for having worn the uniform of this country, having served with distinction. Ryan administers the program. If anybody here knows any veteran, any woman or any man who has served and has not received the Welcome Home bonus, I hope you'll let our office know. I hope you'll call Ryan, because it's our job to get that veterans bonus, that welcome home bonus, in the hands of every person who has worn the uniform of this country. Number two, it seems to me that one of the things that we try to do in this Commonwealth is to encourage small businesses to grow and develop and to flourish. Businesses that are owned by women, by men, all over this Commonwealth. And there are tens of thousands of veterans, women and men, who want to start businesses, who want to grow businesses. So when we created 2.5 years ago the Small Business Banking Partnership, we focused specifically on the needs of veteran and veteran-owned businesses. So if you know anyone who is a veteran, woman or man, who owns or wants to develop or grow a small business, we have a network of 52 banks all over the Commonwealth that are loaning money to veterans who want to start or grow their businesses, and that's a program that we hope will create opportunity, jobs, economic wealth all over this Commonwealth in families who have served with such distinction. And finally, I want to express my personal appreciation to General Rice, the Adjutant General, and to Coleman Nee, our Secretary, for the wonderful partnership that we have established. We are going to hold and host next spring the first ever military or veterans money conference somewhere in the Commonwealth. We're not sure exactly where, but sometime next spring we will bring together what we believe will be the largest group of veterans and military personnel to stay together for a day and study and learn about financial education, financial literacy, and financial empowerment. How to put household budgets together, how to save, how to invest, how to grow a business, how to provide for one's family. As I sat with General Rice, who is responsible for close to 10,000 of our fellow citizens who serve in the National Guard, as I sat with the Secretary and we talked with our teams, we felt that the sense of urgency about financial education and financial literacy shouldn't be simply in our schools, shouldn't be simply for our older adults or simply for our low and moderate income families, but that veterans and military personnel need financial education, need financial literacy, and need that financial empowerment desperately. So I look forward, General, look forward, Mr. Secretary, to working with you to make this money conference a statewide conference available to any member of the military and to any veteran who would like to serve. Today, we honor you for your service. We're deeply grateful for what you do every day to honor the traditions of this country, to protect our freedoms, to protect our liberties, and to do what we do best here in this Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to honor our veterans as the rock-solid foundation on which we build a just, humane democracy for every one of our citizens now and for generations to come. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. It is now my honor to introduce someone who is fighting for us every single day, men and women veterans and military families. Senator Michael Rush is not only chairman of the Joint Committee on Veterans and Federal Affairs for the Senate, but Senator Rush is also someone who has walked in our shoes as a current lieutenant commander or commander, sir? The lieutenant commander in the Navy. Senator Rush was deployed last year for a year in Iraq, doing some very difficult and dangerous work. But before that, Senator Rush had been, as a prior enlisted, had been a member of the Seabees. And we know the motto of the Seabees is construimus patuimus, we build, we fight. But the Seabees have shortened that down to two simple words, and that's can do. And I think that epitomizes Senator Rush's efforts on our behalf, particularly with his advocacy for last year's Valor Act and this year's Valor Act too. So it's my honor and privilege to introduce a Navy veteran and a great American, Senator Michael Rush.
Thank you, Secretary Nee. And I must give recognition where it is properly due, and I think everyone here knows it, that there is no greater advocate in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for our veterans, our female veterans, our active duty service personnel and their families than our unbelievable Secretary Coleman Nee. I would like to just acknowledge that I noticed a couple of my colleagues in the Senate were here earlier. Senator Brian Joyce from Milton, Senator Richard Moore from Uxbridge were here with us earlier. I'd also like to acknowledge, I see the past Grand National Commander of the American Legion, Jake Comer, is with us, somebody who went to Washington, D.C. in that role and fought tirelessly for all the veterans and their families. Certainly inspiration. On this Women's Veterans Day, we gather together to celebrate, remember, and honor our female servicewomen, veterans, and their families, and we recognize the role they have played, continue to play, in our nation's military and our nation's history. As the Senate Chairman of the Committee on Veteran and Federal Affairs, and as a veteran myself, I have seen firsthand how our women have taken leadership roles and continue every day to do unbelievable work. I would like to acknowledge my co-chairman on the committee, who is a friend and tireless advocate, and he and I have been working to advance veterans legislation for our female veterans, all of our veterans. He could not be with us this morning, but he works tirelessly, and he is Representative Carlo Basil from East Boston, certainly an unbelievable advocate and friend, Representative Basil. We in Massachusetts are a community of individuals who care about our female vets. We recognize and understand the immense contributions of our female veterans to our state, our nation, and we are committed to ensuring that your service to your country never is unrewarded by a system that ensures the very best that we have to offer. We will continue to work together to ensure that Massachusetts is not only #1 in the nation for providing services to our veterans, but that Massachusetts is #1 in the nation for being responsive to the needs of our female veterans. Again, it is a privilege and an honor to serve you, both in the military and here on Beacon Hill, and I congratulate you on this outstanding Veterans Day. Thank you.
And I know Chairman Basil couldn't be here as well, but I want to thank him for his efforts, and as well as Representative Linda Dean Campbell, who I believe is tied up with official business, but I know Representative Campbell is a proud woman veteran, and if we see her later, we'll bring her up. But our appreciation and our thoughts go out to her as well. And it's my pleasure at this time to bring up for a few words someone who's been here to this event before, and again, a very strong advocate and someone who's used their position not only as our Massachusetts State Auditor, but as well as our former Secretary of Labor, to advocate on behalf of our female veterans and our women all over the Commonwealth, the Auditor of the Commonwealth, Suzanne Bob. Auditor Bob, thank you.
Well, good morning, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you again today. I attended this service last year for the very first time, and what an education, what an experience it was for me. I really appreciated the ability to hear the stories and to participate in honoring women for their service. I took a trip a couple of years ago to the Air and Space Museum out in Seattle, and what really captured my attention there was a display that they had about the women, the original women Air Force pilots. And what impressed me was not just their service, their professionalism, the danger in which they willingly put themselves, but was the fact that they didn't get the same benefits as the men who were doing the very same job. They didn't get the pay, they didn't get the military rank, they didn't even get a death benefit. I like to think that we've made progress since then, although frankly I don't think we've made as much progress as we should have done. This is a way of increasing public awareness, recognizing women for the contributions that they make to our armed services, to the betterment of our country. Thank you for allowing me to participate in this program.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this back over to Viviana Marcotte, who's going to introduce our keynote speaker and present our awards for today. Viviana, thank you. Yeah, we'll do it.
Before our keynote speaker addresses us, I just wanted to share a little bit of background about First Sergeant Christine Tron. She joined the Army Military Intelligence Corps in January of 1997 and is one of the last cycles of the Women Army Corps. After completing 47 weeks of basic Polish language training and 8 weeks of voice intercept training, she was deployed to Saudi Arabia during Desert Storm in 1991 as an interrogator. She was assigned to the Joint Task Force Interrogation Facility belonged to the Saudi Arabian-Iraqi border, assigned to the 202nd MI Battalion in charge of the enemies and prisoners of war. Christine identifies her most rewarding tour of duty as the HER First Sergeant of a reserve linguist unit during 9/11 and preparing many of her soldiers to serve in Afghanistan after language training. Since retiring in 2008, she's remained active with volunteering at the Veteran Affairs Medical Center in Wisconsin and also as an instructor at the Army Community Services Center. She is the adjutant in her VFW post, junior vice commander at the DAV Veterans Council, and a charter member of the DAV Women Veterans Committee. Please help me give a warm welcome to First Sergeant Tron.
Thank you, Viviana. Good morning, honored guests, esteemed speakers, friends, families, and all veterans. Being a woman who survived Army basic training in one of the last cycles of the Women's Army Corps in January 1977, there was always a struggle throughout my long and memorable military career to prove that females were as good as males were, especially in those so-called down and dirty tactical units that I always seemed to find myself assigned to. I might not have known the names of the brave women who came before me those many years prior, but I knew these trailblazers were to be honored for ensuring a place for me in this military. And to do this, I always gave it my all. To be in the Army back then meant receiving classes in grooming and makeup, along with basic marksmanship. It meant starching your Class A cord skirt so much it stood up on its own. Fortunately, to be a woman in today's Army means a return to core values where it doesn't make a difference in the gender of the person wearing the uniform, just in the quality of the character of the person in it. Rising through the ranks, I saw a few females in the senior grades of NCOs and much fewer in the officer corps. But always keeping in mind those trailblazers who came before me, I gave it my all. And for me, I felt empowered by winning respect when I mentored soldiers regardless of rank and gender when asked by them to provide guidance and advice. When I first joined the military, it was just for one 4-year tour or so, I thought. There was no aspirations for higher rank, but my determination to attend as much military training and different courses as possible paid off for me. The increased knowledge led to increased responsibilities, which led to more opportunities to mentor soldiers, which led to promotions to higher ranks. I certainly didn't think, way back in the typically hot summers of Fort Hood, Texas, when I was the one digging and maintaining those field latrines as the battalion's junior sanitation NCO, that I would ever be filling the esteemed rank of First Sergeant, preparing and sending my soldiers off to a war on terrorism many years later. It was during those hectic and chaotic months immediately after 9/11 that the years of mentoring soldiers of all ranks showed its importance. I like to think the time I spent forming my linguist company into a more confident collection of individuals able to think and act on their own, taking charge of their own destinies, better prepared them for lengthy language retraining before being assigned to unfamiliar units on their own in Afghanistan. Their individual successes relied upon training I had organized for them long before there was any such a thing as a global war on terrorism. It was this rank of first sergeant that I truly felt I could make a difference for other women in the Army. Besides the acceptance of my authority at the unit, my own unit, at conferences, female soldiers of all ranks would approach me to tell me how much they were inspired and felt that, yes, that a female could reach the valued and endearing, if not feared, rank of first sergeant and be an effective leader and role model. Some of them might say they themselves could have a winning chance to be promoted to such a position, which creates a positive impression of women in the senior ranks, not just to the women, but also to the men. After a combined total of 32 years of service in the active Army, Army Reserves, and Active Guard Reserves, I finally hung up my uniform for good and retired in December of 2008. My last few years in the military were as an instructor in interrogation, first sergeant, and battle staff NCO courses. As fulfilling as this was, it was physically draining, because many times we were teaching mobilized reservists or those otherwise heading directly overseas to Iraq or Afghanistan. We would be in session 21 to 25 days with 3 or 4 days off, and then the cycle started all over again. Every hour of my duty day was scheduled. Throughout my military career, I found myself in units where we often worked 6 days a week. I never really had any one of those nice, cherry 9-to-5 jobs. Although I was repeatedly asked and could have received a waiver to remain in the Army as an instructor at the NCO Academy at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, for an additional 2 years, I politely declined. My body was experiencing the adverse effects of the many long years of heavy physical activities that occur when one is assigned to those tactical units. It was time to give up the position to some deserving NCOs seeking to become an instructor, teaching our soldiers before being sent off as battle staff NCOs or first sergeants themselves. But retirement was in my future. But I retained an association with the military. My love of teaching and mentoring was a perfect fit for me as a volunteer instructor at the Army Community Services at Fort McCoy. It had all those benefits of teaching without the burdens of paperwork. Plus, I could sleep past 6 a.m. Long before I retired, I was active in an all-women American Legion post in St. Louis, which I'm still a member of. Once retired in Wisconsin, I became active in memberships in the local Veterans of Foreign Wars and Disabled American Veterans organizations. That was a natural transition for me to once again be with veterans, only now we were no longer on active duty or in the reserves or otherwise wore the uniform of our military branches. I might not be on duty anymore, but I'm still doing what I always loved to do, and that's to mentor others. As the phrase goes, it's veterans helping veterans. I have no regrets. I always did the best I could. I always gave it my all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we introduce our award recipient and present her with her award, one other person I did want to recognize, the Commissioner for Veteran Services for the City of Boston is here, Commissioner Francisco Urena. Thank you. And we did want to recognize those various branches of the service that are here today. So, For all you, particularly you women veterans who served in the United States Army, can you stand up or raise your hand and be recognized? How about you proud veterans of the United States Navy? Where are our Air Force veterans? The United States Air Force. How about our Coast Guard? Where's the United States Marine Corps? Thank you. Viviana?
Thank you. We are now at the part of the program where we recognize the 2013 recipient of the Deborah Sampson Award. The award criteria are the nominees' military service, awards, pioneering efforts for women in the military, personal sacrifices the nominee endured in order to serve in the military, and accomplishments towards the enhancement of the lives of women veterans through community service and participation in veteran organizations. I will now ask Captain Mary Jo Majors, the Deborah Award recipient of the 2010 award, to please come forward and introduce this year's nominee.
To all our distinguished guests, our 2013 honoree, Lieutenant Eileen Marullo, your family and friends, our guest speaker, First Sergeant Christine Turn, other nominees for this year's award, my sister and brother veterans from all the services, and everyone else here who has taken the time to join us to celebrate Women Veteran Appreciation Day. What a wonderful day to celebrate women's in the state. That crisp, cool feeling, and hopefully the rain will hold up. So Lieutenant Marullo, today is a celebration and recognition of your outstanding life and career, as well as service to the communities in which you lived and worked and adopted as an outreach of your community service. You are a pioneer. You're a woman who served in the military services when it wasn't the fashion to do so. You were then and are now a leader, an educator, a professional, a mentor to many, many people. For that. You're a fundraiser extraordinaire, as I hear. You're an organizer, a supporter, a facilitator, and a selfless woman, and an absolutely outstanding selection for this year's Deborah Sampson Award. Lieutenant Marullo's career began as an officer during World War II when she joined in the time when it wasn't popular choice for a woman. The Women Army Corps was established in 1943 during World War II, 1 year after the President established the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps in 42. So more than 150,000 women served in the Army during the war, and thousands were sent to the European and Pacific theaters. She has continued to demonstrate community service and dedication to the care of veterans over the years, but she has done so in particular by her dedication to the recognition of the World War II women from Revere. And they had an unveiling of the dedication of the Revere Women Veterans World War II Memorial on September 7, 2013. She has made sure that the World War II women in her city will never be forgotten. With her selection, the Mass Department of Veteran Services has acknowledged and demonstrated the confidence in her ability to represent all the women veterans in the state and to assist with the achievement of our future goals and mission in the Women Veteran Network. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present to you our special women veteran for 2013, Lieutenant Eileen Marullo.
I guess it's my turn to talk. First of all, I am extremely thankful for the honor and for you people that have come to honor me. It is a privilege for me to be here and to be honored by you. Let me just say one little incident that happened while I was at Walter Reed. Do you mind if I do that? We had to work in the clinic where the amputees came to either go to Whirlpool or to have they call it the stump, even though they didn't like to be called the stump, but the rest of the appendage. And they had to have that massaged or formed into a contour so that it would fit in the arm or into the leg or whatever it was. And it was a lot of work for the men to do the exercises, to get the treatment, to pay attention, and most of all, to behave themselves. So one little fellow came from Chelsea. Now, you know, if you're in the service and someone lives anywhere near you, then of course they're your buddy, and you want to get close to them and encourage them and be with them. So naturally, this little fellow from Chelsea, he had a below leg amputation, and he was doing all right, fairly well. He came down one day and he was full of joy. He was so happy. He said, the girl that I asked to marry me said yes. Oh, good, wonderful. Now you'll have to get ready to go home. He said, good, I will. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. It's all right. I worked on him, massaged him. Finally, he got it fitted for a prosthesis. And then comes the difficult process of walking and having the right cadence. Well, time went by, maybe a month. He came down one day very, very depressed. The girl had sent him a Dear John letter. Now, those of you that were in the service, you know a Dear John letter means that the girlfriend writes to the boyfriend saying, sorry you lost your leg, now you lost your girl. So that was terrible news for him. She didn't want to be married, she didn't want to be engaged, she didn't want him to come home to visit her or anything else. So what did he do? He quit. He quit. He wouldn't come down to the clinic. He did nothing. He even started to drink a little bit. And that was that. As far as he was concerned, that was the end. But not as far as I was concerned. Oh, no. I went up to the clinic. I spoke to the nurse in charge. I said, make sure he comes down first thing in the morning and every single morning until I say that's enough. So he came down, depressed and everything. I said, that's enough of that. We don't want that kind of a look down here. You're going to work and work and work, and you're going to go home and you're going to be happy. And that'll never happen, never happen. I said, it'll happen. It's going to begin right now. So we did it and pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. He finally got so that he could walk nicely. He went home, and that was that. Never heard from him. He didn't even say so long when he left. So it didn't hurt my feelings, the poor thing, but if I could have got a hold of that girl in Chelsea, she would have heard something from me. So I got out of the service, and then I didn't have enough of military things, so I went back as a civilian to work in the Chelsea Naval Hospital as a physical therapist. So I came home one day to have lunch with my parents. The doorbell rang, My father answered it. He said, it's a young man to see you. Oh, nice. Who knew how many young men wanted to see me? So I went there, and there he was, the little fellow from Chelsea, with a big bouquet and a big box of chocolates for me, because that girl said, yes, I will marry you, and they did get married. So, that's what happens when you pay attention to me. All right.
Eileen, thank you so much for your service on behalf of veterans in the Commonwealth and throughout the nation. The Deborah Sampson Award.
That is beautiful.
Congratulations, Eileen, and thank you again for your service. It's been a very busy year at the Women Veterans Network with over 560 direct assistance cases over the past year, and we've had the honor of meeting so many women veterans and service providers across the state and eagerly developing new ideas on how to better serve women in the military and throughout the Commonwealth. This year's 5th Annual Women Veterans Conference, held at UMass Boston, brought in over 370 women veterans and 67 exhibitors. It definitely made for an amazing day. Sergeant Kayla Williams, the author of I Love My Rifle More Than You, delivered a powerful story about her time in Iraq as a linguist and her difficult transition. And we're also very thankful for the staff at the Department of Veteran Services for their support and our active military forces for their support of our network as well. But we definitely cannot do any of this without the support and dedication of the Women Veterans Steering Committee and the Governor's Advisory Council on Women Veterans. So if there's any members in the audience here today, I would ask if you could please stand and be recognized. Once again, we're pleased to have this week proclaimed as Women Veterans Week, as it shows the support that Massachusetts has for its veterans by giving women veterans their own week to be acknowledged. The proclamation can be found in Nurses Hall after the ceremony. This concludes the formal portion of our ceremony. I would invite you all to please join us in Nurses Hall to continue the celebration. And to veterans everywhere, thank you for your service and those who support us. Thank you very much for being here.